All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be breaking down the top prop bets in the NBA Summer League today. Now, the tough part about today is going to be the tough part that we had yesterday, and you guys will see what I'm talking about here as we get into the recap from yesterday's bet of the day. All right, so yesterday was an annoying day. Okay, I had so many slips that ended up with looking like this. So this was the bet of the day yesterday. We went 1 for 1. Very good stuff there. Yes. Very annoying. Okay, very annoying. Now, don't get me wrong. Part of the equation yesterday was the fact that some of these players could end up sitting. I actually thought there was a good chance that a decent amount might end up sitting. The fact that they all sat was pretty darn tilting and annoying. Now, I did end up having a profitable day overall with the NBA Summer League, but that was the theme of the whole freaking day. It's just a lot of DNPs. But overall, had you guys taken my advice, I think you ended up with a pretty darn good day. You know, some of the spots where I was saying, if this player sits, this other player is going to produce good results. And we did see that end up happening with a lot of those players, but very annoying. That could be what happens today. But let's go ahead and get into the game by game breakdown. Okay, so let's go ahead and just take a peek at this slate that we have. Starting with the first game, we got the Pistons versus the Heat, guys. Decently high-scoring game, a close enough game, 5.5 points, not enough to worry about a blowout or anything like that. But obviously, the appealing game is going to be this Pacers versus Knicks game here. 190.5 is obviously a huge game total, and it's not a game that's projected to be a blowout at all. 2-point difference there. So that, in terms of predictability, should be the spot we want to get to, especially for some overbets. Now, the next game we get into is going to be the Hawks versus the Grizzlies. Very interesting that the Hawks are going to be 7-point favorites in this game. That tells me that Gigi Jackson's going to sit. That tells me that Jalen Wells is going to sit as well. So we'll look at some prop bets that we could potentially get there if those two players do end up sitting. It is still a high game total, so maybe that doesn't end up occurring. Another pretty appealing game in terms of maybe potentially stacking the Spurs versus Charlotte, guys. 2.5-point favorites are going to be the Charlotte Hornets. 184 is going to be the game total there, so decently high scoring game there. Another somewhat interesting game in terms of it being a higher scoring game, 186.5 is going to be the Rockets versus the Trailblazers. Interesting there. We have a very low scoring game. So for Boston versus the Lakers, we probably are looking at more of under bets in that game. Just 175 is pretty darn low. And then we look at Toronto versus Golden State, guys. 9.5 points are the Raptors favorite in this game. Okay, very interesting there. And it's a decently high scoring game as well. So obviously for the Warriors, probably looking at more under bets. For the Raptors, probably looking at more over bets. Okay. And then Denver versus the Clippers. Again, another game that could potentially be a blowout. Denver is 9.5-point dogs in this game to the Clippers. And so that really does condense the slate, I think, in terms of what we're going to be able to find in terms of predictable prop bets. All right, so let's go ahead here and just take a quick peek at the Prize Picks optimizer right now, just to see where we are getting some middling opportunities here for the NBA Summer League. So again, David Jones Garcia is someone that the two sites are getting wrong. I do think we probably still want to be looking at the over, but man, 19.5 points is a lot. I do think with him finally, if we are betting on him, we are betting both sides of this, okay? Because that's just a lot for a guy that has come off the bench in some cases in the NBA Summer League. So don't necessarily love that. An interesting bet is going to be Enrique Freeman here, where we'll touch on him in just a second. He is someone that is getting a lot of minutes, getting a lot of production. He has gotten the over in every single game thus far this NBA Summer League, but I was really hoping we would get a prop line difference for his PRA because he is someone that gets a lot of rebounds. From there, we are getting Jalen Wells prop bets. So interesting there. Again, I kind of expect him to sit just given the lines that we're getting. We'll see though. If he plays, that over 16.5 would be interesting, but that's it. So we are definitely getting much more limited prop line differences this slate. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like the Tuesday slate where I'm like, I don't really love this slate. I do think we are getting some spots that we can attack a little bit more so. But all in all, we probably will be forced in some bets, in all honesty, just to get some action in on today. All right, so let's go ahead and get into Miami versus Detroit. I do really like some of the lines that we were getting here. So if Ware ends up playing in this game, I think he's going to continue to go off like he has done. -1 game where Atlanta versus Miami, he didn't shoot the basketball that much, 4 for 9, 10 points, kind of random, okay? But Miami versus Cleveland, 27 minutes, 21 points, 9 rebounds, much better game, 14 shot attempts there like that. And then in his last game against Boston, 33 minutes, 21 points, 15 rebounds. So very productive there. And so really, I think we could get to any of his lines just in general. If you think he's going to have a good game, get there. But I do like the over points a little bit more so with him. Now, I will say Larson is kind of an interesting player to be on as well. If Ware ends up getting minutes, you would expect him to also get minutes here as well. Now, what's interesting with him is he has only gotten the over once, really, in regards to any of the prop bets that we'd be targeting, but he has been playing a decent amount of minutes. The issue is the shot attempts haven't exactly been there. It's just been strange. Like, you would expect him, and he has played well. Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of free throw attempts, right? Just the shot attempts have not been elite. But I do think if we are, doing Ware for over his points, we are probably also doing then Larson for over his. Now, we're going to go ahead and jump into Detroit. For Detroit, guys, I'm not necessarily seeing a lot here that I love. I think Holland's prop bets are correct. Jenkins' line, I think, is correct as well. Bobby Klintman as well. Could get to any of his overs, but does also feel like we'd be forcing it a little bit. Okay, so yeah, just looking at Ron Holland has had 12 shot attempts. Obviously, we like that there. A lot of free throw attempts as well. So yeah, you do expect him to be productive. We look at Jenkins as well, 30 minutes in the last game, 12 shot attempts in that game, which was lower minutes-wise, per minute-wise, compared to his last two games where he had 23 minutes, 22 minutes, and had more points in those games. So definitely interesting there. You can see probably why some people are trying to attack his overs, and I could see doing that. And I will say, I think that's why people are betting on his over 19.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And I think I could get there. I think that makes sense in the context of maybe trying to do a little bit of a stack. And then, yeah, we look at Bobby. Definitely interesting here, guys. So he had 10 shot attempts in the last game, had a lot of minutes. He's had 30, 28, and 32 minutes. So we love that there from him. We love the minutes. And we do love the shot attempts as well. But the points haven't necessarily been there for him. And maybe you could get to his over PRA, but nothing too crazy there as well. I do think it makes sense for him to get some run, though. So let's go ahead and get into this next game. We got Indy versus New York, guys. So we'll start with Indy. Let's talk about the Freeman prop bet. So Freeman is someone that, again, in a higher scoring game, we like that there. We see the minutes been there for him, 27, 23. That game was a blowout, though, where he only had 23, and then 30 minutes as well. Decent amount of points. Not a lot of shot attempts, though. 8, 5, and 9. That's my biggest hesitation for betting him for over his 13.5 points. That is a concern for sure. Okay, and he has been pretty darn good from 3-ball range as well. That creates a little bit of a concern as well, but we do see he's been very productive, especially in terms of rebounds. So some people might be inclined to bet on his over 7.5 rebounds. I am taking the prop line difference and just betting on his over 13.5 points. Again, it's a high-scoring game, so he should be pretty darn productive if that does end up happening. Then as we get into the next player, Johnny Furphy here, the freaking dunk. If you guys haven't seen it, go ahead and just search him on Twitter. This was the outcome of it. Pretty darn hilarious photo here from their last game. Now, in terms of prop bets that we could be on for him, I do think his lines are basically correct as well. And I do think that the rest of the Pacers lines are correct. So let's go ahead and take a peek at the New York Knicks here, guys. New York, I kind of mentioned in the last game that I did like Tyler Kohler to have a much better game, especially on Underdog, where they originally had his points line at 10.5, and they eventually bumped up to 12.5 to the point where I'm like, we probably already got the action on Underdog, probably don't need to get to it as much so, or try to attempt the middle there between the two sites. But he is someone that a lot of people are still betting on, a lot of action on him for a summer league game. Now, part of the reason as to why he did probably play a little bit better potentially is Kevin McClure Jr. ended up sitting in that game. So he's someone that is expected to play in this game, at least as I'm recording this, we'll see. But Kolek did see a little bit extra run, 33 minutes, and obviously had 25 points. Those shot attempts were still there for him, okay? And the biggest difference was he was hitting his 3-ball. So one of the reasons why I liked him was the fact that he still got off 5 3-balls and 6 3-balls. He was 0 for 11, and so it's no surprise that he ended up going 5 for 12 then in the next game. Still got a lot of shot attempts up as well. So I could see still getting to his over points, but then if you're doing that, you might as well just do his over PRA because he is someone that can get some assists. He is someone that can kind of do it all, get some rebounds as well. And so I do think if we're betting on him, we could just end up doing his over 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, what's interesting about the rest of the prop bets that we are getting here for New York is if McClure ends up sitting, then Marjon Beauchamp becomes interesting, although Marjon Beauchamp at this point is kind of a veteran. So, would you really expect him to still continue to get run? Maybe. That's the thing. We don't exactly know. If we get news that someone is sitting, that obviously elevates the other players that we'd be betting on here in the spot. So yeah, we look at Kevin McClure, guys. Again, he is someone that was productive in the two games that he has played, 28 minutes and 28 minutes. And, kind of both of them were blowouts. And so shot attempts were there for him. I do think you could potentially bet on his overs as well. And if he ends up sitting, oh, well, it's going to end up being a DNP. I actually don't mind that. I think that's a good route to go. But if he does end up sitting, then we're probably looking at something like Marjon Beauchamp to, again, kind of get that run. So he's had 29 minutes, 16 minutes, and then 26. So I don't know if we can necessarily bank on the minutes being there for him. If everyone's active, that's the concern. But if they do end up sitting, he should get his shot attempts up, okay? And he probably will be productive. He is a veteran. He's not an NBA caliber, starter or anything like that. He's kind of a two-way player caliber. And, not terrible then if he does end up getting those minutes. And so we go ahead and get into that Atlanta versus Memphis game. The only player that'd be interested in betting in is going to be Burfkin here, where the minutes have been there for him. The shot attempts have definitely been there for him as well. 15, 17, and 16 thus far. So if that continues, and then if Jacob Toppin does end up sitting in this game, then he becomes a player that gets a little bit more usage as well. And so given the fact that Vegas thinks this game is going to be a blowout in favor of Atlanta, that would tell me that Burfkin is going to be the player that we would want to be on here in this game. And that just becomes a question of which prop bet do we want to be on. I would probably still go his over PRA of 29.5, but that does feel like we're forcing it a little bit. And so in terms of Memphis, guys, given the fact that they are expected to be blown out, I don't really want to get to them, okay? Again, you could potentially get to Jalen Wells for over 16.5 points. For him, the minutes have been mostly there. They have been somewhat blown out. That's obviously a concern. And so if they're going to get blown out again, then maybe he doesn't get to that 27 minutes. But he would be part of the reason as to why they get blown out. He's had 12 shot attempts, 16 shot attempts, and 10 shot attempts as well. Hasn't exactly played well, but look at the 3 balls, 9, 5, and 7. So very interesting play, but again, feels like we're fortunate. So let's go ahead and get into the evening games now here. So yes, let's go ahead and take a peek at our guy, David Jones Garcia. So he has been someone that we have been on a few slates now. I think 2 in a row, maybe 3 in a row. But his lines were lines that clearly stood out given the role that he was projected to have. Now, the fact that his lines are so high, we are getting a prop line difference. Again, I do think he could end up middling. Okay, 19.5 on PrizePicks, 21.5 on Underdog. He did middle once, okay, where he got 27 minutes, 21 points. I kind of think that's the best route. And I do like his over. I do. But I don't feel as secure about his minutes being there as some of the other players that we've gone to, just because, again, I'm pretty sure he hasn't been starting and he's just coming off the bench, which is a little bit concerning. The minutes are still there for him, but maybe he has a poor, quarter shooting the basketball. And then the minutes just aren't there that we need them to be there for him to get those overs, obviously. And then we also have to talk about Carter Bryant, guys. So his lines are extremely low. He is someone that, man, given the minutes that he's getting, he better be able to get the over. You look at his minutes, 30, 27, 19, 1 for 6, 0 for 7, 2 for 11. He has just been terrible. Okay, he has been someone that I encouraged early on to bet on his under. Okay, and so maybe that's a bet that we can get to again. But again, feels like we're forcing it a little bit. For Charlotte, I do have a question of who's going to be active in this game, because they have been kind of mixing and matching who's active. And so for the most part, I don't know if I necessarily want to get there. Con Canopal could end up staying in this game. Played decently well in his last game after his first game was, pretty darn rough. McKinley, oh geez. Anyways, Liam here is someone that, again, minutes-wise, when he has gotten the minutes, has been productive. We just need him to be active in the game. Didn't play in their last game there as well. KJ Simpson has been someone that's played in 3 straight games for him. Does that point to him potentially sitting? So you guys get the point here. For Charlotte, I worry about the predictability in the plays that we are getting. And so with that, I'm worried about betting on them. Now, I will say all their lines are kind of egregiously low to me, I think. So if Liam plays, his 20.5 points, rebounds, and assists, too low. Con Canopal, if he plays, I think his PRA is too low. KJ Simpson, if he plays, I think that his points are too low at 16.5. You could even make the argument for Ryan Kalkbrenner as well. His PRA of 18.5 does seem to be a little bit too low as well. And then literally all of them. Literally all of them. Okay. And given the fact that I am going to assume someone's going to sit, this is a spot where I could just see betting on 3 of the overs. Maybe not Ryan Kalkbrenner with this strategy, but I could see betting on 3 of the overs, 4 of the overs, and then attaching one of the good bets that we have on the optimizer that are not, summer league bets. And that's the best approach to go with. I'm actually going to do that. I think that's a good route to go with here. And again, it's worth calling out that this game is projected to be a close game, 2.5 points and 184, decently high scoring game as well, which is good there for Charlotte. So we like that. So guys, for Houston, we are not getting a prop bet. So we're just going to be looking at Portland for that matchup here. And we see we're not getting that many prop bets. Caleb Love, a lot of people are, I think, betting on his over PRA of 24.5, which I will say is kind of an interesting bet. He had 12 freaking rebounds. That's insane. 5 assists, really productive in his last game. But the minutes have been there. He has been someone that has been productive here. A lot of shot attempts, right? 16, 21, and 16. I actually think his over points would probably be the way to go, but his lines they just seem correct to me. Again, it kind of feels like we'd be forcing that prop bet. So I don't know if I necessarily want to get there as well. Maybe we go to the other guard in this game, Rupert here, where you would expect him to be productive. You would expect the minutes to be there. Again, though, just don't necessarily love the spot that we're getting here in this game. So, guys, we'll take a quick peek at Boston versus the Lakers. I will say the Lakers, I don't know. I just don't want to bet on. Honestly, guys, if you guys have a bet there, let me know. Like maybe DJ Stewart for over his points. It makes sense for him to continue to get run. Cole Swider there as well. Like I don't like the spots. It's a low scoring game. There's not much there. And in terms of minutes, I feel like they're tougher to predict. Whereas if we get into Boston, still somewhat the same. Let me look at something like Kenneth Lawton. If we knew that Kenneth Lawton was going to get minutes, like 25 minutes, we would be all on board for him over 10.5 points, but not much there. So I'm going to also basically skip over Golden State versus Toronto here. Again, the lines are all kind of correct. They're expected to get blown out, so I don't know if I necessarily want to get there. We'll take a quick peek at Toronto as well. I will say right away, if we were getting some prop line differences here, I would be more inclined to just bet on the over of whichever site was, a little bit too low on their lines, but we're not getting that just yet. Now, the thing with Toronto is they're obviously playing to win, right? 3 straight wins for them. They're going to try to play to win. So like Walter is someone that's gotten a lot of run. You would expect him to continue to get run. Sheed is someone that's gotten more run in the last 3 games. Maybe someone that continues to get more run as well. We do see the first game was a blowout, so we're not too worried about the minutes. So I think we can project him to get around 25 minutes. But the production has been a little bit spread out there. Productive, don't get me wrong, but in terms of like finding a profit that we want to be on, not necessarily there for us. Same thing here with Jonathan. And then Battle has been someone that just not worth it. And so you guys can kind of see where I'm struggling to get to any bets here. Kyle Murray Boyles, is someone that 24 minutes, 23 minutes, like been productive in his time when he's gotten the minutes. But again, I think the lines that we're getting here for this whole team are basically correct. I could see doing Walter for his over PRA or even his over points. But again, probably just correct. Bulls for his over points is probably a bet that I could get to, but again, feels like we're forcing it. So one thing I want to call out with this last game, Denver versus the Clippers here, is if Hunter Tyson ends up sitting in this game, we are going to see more minutes go to Deron Holmes here, who ended up getting 29 minutes in the last game, was more productive, 10 points, 11 rebounds. So the rebounds were, a little bit more from there, just overall, a little bit more production. And maybe if you wanted to try to get a little bit of an edge, you could bet on his over rebounds, maybe his over points as well, maybe his PRA as well. Does feel, again, a little bit too tight, a little bit for summer league purposes. I don't see the need to force that in there, but I could see a path where someone's seeing that, thinking Hunter Tyson's going to sit again, and they want to bet his over 6.5 rebounds. Now, I do want to talk about Bates here for them. Okay, Bates is someone that if you look at the shots like per minute, it's insane. So played 18 minutes, had 9 shot attempts, ended up with 8 points, played 19 minutes, then the next game, 13 points, 16 shot attempts. I mean, that's crazy. And then in the last game, 27 minutes, still 16 shot attempts. Okay, so the points have been up for him, 14 and 13 in the last 2 games. If we take a peek at his line here, guys, and again, assuming that maybe Hunter Tyson does end up sitting in this game, him for over 11.5 points does become pretty darn interesting to me there. It's a bet on Tyson still sitting or maybe someone else sitting as well. It makes sense to get him run. They've lost 3 straight games. Let's continue to get those minutes and continue to get those shot attempts up as well. So I'm okay getting there as well. And then we go ahead here and take a peek at the other side of this game. Remember, the Clippers are 9.5 point favorites in this game. So naturally, we would want to be betting on some of the overs. I don't mind the overs for Cam Christie, assuming that the minutes are still going to be there for him, as they should be. They're playing to win. Like we see the minutes that he's gone 30, 33, 34. Love it there. He went 3 for 11, had an off day shooting, 1 for 5 from 3. I think we're fine going back to the well with him just in general, whether it be over his points or over his PRA. That's going to correlate heavily. This is another one of those spots where if we were getting a prop line difference, I'd be happy to take that. But let's just go with his over PRA. I'm happy to get there, I think, as well. Then it is worth calling out. Same thing with Jordan Miller there as well. I kind of like the idea of pairing those two together. And strangely, they both had a bad game in the last game, but I think it's worth calling out the game. Just so low scoring, right? I mean, 58 to 67. Then we look at the other 2 games. I think that was more of just a product of the Lakers rather than the Clippers. Now, that being said, Denver kind of ugly there as well. Could end up happening, but if we agree that Vegas is at least correct about the game total, 180 over and under, then I think we are happy to get to those overs for both of those 2 players for the Clippers. And so we go ahead here and get into the 95 by the day here for this slate. I will say that we are getting some early bets here, right? These have about 3 hours or so if these two bets or any of these bets are live by the time some of you guys are watching this, one, you should be in the notification bell so you're not missing out on anything. But two, then toss in those Clippers prop bets. I like those a little bit more. I shouldn't say more, but I like those basically just as much as any of the prop bets that are here as well. Okay. And I will say pairing Kolek and McClure together maybe doesn't make as much sense. Maybe you could toss in one of the two Clippers because I do think the two Clippers prop bets together do make sense. I think that correlates pretty heavily. So we have about 8 bets that I think are really strong bets. If Freeman ends up getting bumped, by all means, you could take that off. And again, with David Jones Garcia, I do think running out the middle is the best way to go. And so for the underdog bet of the day, it would be doing both the Clippers for over their PRAs and then doing David Jones Garcia under his 21.5 points. Now that's going to do it for the video, guys. Make sure to give a like and subscribe on your way out. If you guys have not done so before, subscribe to the channel. If you guys would like access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, I guess it was just the Prize Picks Optimizer, you guys can get access to that tool for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Including that is going to be the Underdog Optimizer, the Prize Picks and Underdog Cheat Sheets, all the fantasy golf tools as well for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. I priced it that way for you guys. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.